Louise Morrissey, and you're tuned to KevinTV.com.
Agus fáilte chlár Community Focus. Hello and welcome to the Community Focus programme on KevinTV.com. This programme is sponsored by Easons of Main Street Cavan and Pearse Street Mullingar. This programme is dedicated to all things community in County Cavan. If you would like to comment on the show or have your community initiative or issue featured, please email drumlinmedia@gmail.com or contact us via our Facebook or Twitter pages. Now, joining me on tonight's show, first up I have Bob Gilbert, and Bob is chairperson of the Cavan 050 Network. Bob, you're very welcome here this evening.
Thanks, Laura.
And will you tell us a little bit about the Cavan 050 Network? I know you're particularly active in the last number of years. You would hear a lot about the Cavan 050 Network. What are your aims and objectives and why you were set up?
Well, I suppose we've got back to when we were set up. We were set up in 2006. And it was as a result of a feeling that there were a lot of groups around Cavan who were doing their own thing very well, but there was no connection really between them, and so it was
primarily older people's groups.
Yes, older people's groups, and it was felt that they needed to be some kind of a linkage. So a network was set up, which comprised of, I'd say initially about 10 older people's groups in the county. And while the groups themselves were very much looking after the social side of older people's lives, the fact that there were a lot of issues, older people had a lot of issues, and there was nobody raising those issues. So we felt that one of our objectives would be to try and raise the issues affecting older people.
So lobbying?
Yeah, lobbying, basically, yes. And I suppose we did we didn't so much go out and demand things. We went and talked to people and see what they could do for older people. I suppose we had one or two kind of initiatives that worked. One was older people were always complaining that they had no information about things, that they didn't know where to go to find information. So we got together with Citizens Information, and they brought their roadshow around to various older people's groups, and they imparted information. We also, in cooperation with the County Council and Citizens Information, produced a booklet on entitlements and benefits.
Yes, I've seen that, yeah.
But unfortunately, that type of booklet goes out of date very
budget.
quickly. And it costs money to get it redone. So unless we can get some kind benefactor who can come along and sponsor us on another one, so it'll stay on the back burner for a while. But
yeah, because a lot of time would have to go into putting together a publication like that. So
yes.
Would you have traditionally got funding for that type of publication?
Well, the initial publication was done on we have received funding through a Get Vocal programme, which is administered nationally by Age and Opportunity, funded by Atlantic Philanthropies.
Right.
And the first phase of our Get Vocal was kind of, getting information out to older people. So we were able to use some of the funding that we got from Get Vocal on producing this booklet. And then the further years then was kind of empowering older people to, look after themselves, or not so much to look after themselves, but to, I suppose, stand up for themselves. Yes, older people have rights. They have. Someone said one time, they're benefit recipients, but I say they are entitlement recipients, because what they receive. They're entitled to. They worked
yeah.
hard through two recessions, more or less, and now they're, I suppose, faced with another recession.
Yeah, and there's so many, a lot of older people there, you know, as well, looking after their grandchildren and that as well, which sometimes is forgotten about. There's a lot of older people still working.
Yes,
you know?
they are, and like, in fact, 2 members of our network have actually had to almost give up being involved as much as they were, because they're now looking after their grandchildren. And you know, while it's a labour of, it can be a labour of love for a while, but, and like all other people love their grandchildren, but it does become, if you're at it every day, it
ties you, really.
It ties you down, and the freedoms you're looking forward to all your life before you're retired. You know, you're looking forward to having all these freedoms when you retire, and now, you know, you're caught up again in the same old story, you know, looking after, having reared a family, now rearing a second family, you know, or second families. And that's true of a lot of older people. I mean, it's a case of necessity, it's a case of economics. I mean, obviously, you know, 2 people have to work now to make ends meet, and consequently the task of looking after their children has to fall on somebody. And grandparents,
a lot of people, older people, step up to the mark there. They're fantastic, it has to be said. So, I mean, your primary objectives then are about empowering people and, I suppose, lobbying and advocacy.
Yes, yeah.
You don't have somebody full-time employed as an advocate?
No, we don't.
Training in that area?
I suppose, get down to kind of the real advocacy. I mean, advocacy, we have argued about what advocacy means, and it can mean different things to different people, but I suppose to us it means looking after the rights of older people, you know. And while some of our members are actually trained as advocates and are you know, involved in nursing homes and care.
They did that HSC training.
Yeah, so they're involved in that. But I suppose advocacy in the wider sense is anything where you're seeking to improve conditions for someone. You know, that is also advocacy, and I think that's what we meant when we were starting out by saying we were going to use advocacy, you know, to, I suppose, advocate the rights of older people.
Yeah. I'm sure there'll be a huge demand for that anyway on an individual basis now from people. So as a group as well, you're very, very active. I know we have a DVD which is we'll play just at the very end.
Right.
But you have been involved in an awful lot of different initiatives, and you know what have you generally been involved in?
I suppose in the early days there was a lot of maybe trying to get information out to people on various things, and we held a number of information days on different subjects such as wills, safety in the home, finance, and then we started to look at issues, and we did a survey in 2008 on the issues facing older people. And having looked at the issues then, was look, if those issues were all, you know, if we were to kind of meet all the issues, you know, and satisfy all the issues and barriers, etc., we would have an age-friendly county. So then we started looking at the concept of age-friendly counties. And I always say to people that we actually thought about age-friendly counties before the word became kind of popular. But while we were looking at it and working from, I suppose, the bottom up, there are a couple of other places working on it from the top down. And so consequently, they may have declared themselves as age-friendly counties, but in fact, I would say within a year from now, Cavan will be more age-friendly than they are, even though Cavan has not been as yet declared age friendly.
But you're just
Because of the work,
bottom-up approach.
The bottom-up approach, yes.
So what has been involved? What work has taken place to date on Cavan, you know, and the Age Friendly Initiative or Alliance?
Well, I think I talked on a previous programme about, you know, the fact that we did audits in 3 different towns
that's right,
to determine the age friendliness of the towns, and the results of those audits now have gone before the Age Friendly Alliance, which was set up last April, and that involves the county manager, the regional manager of the HSC, the chief superintendent of the Guard, the CEO of the EC, and representative from the Department of Health, representative from the Netwell Centre in Dundalk, and a couple of members of she's the area coordinator for age friendly counties, and a member of the Aging Well Network, which is responsible for rolling out age friendly counties, plus 3 of our own members. So at the moment, the Alliance is devising a strategy based on the issues that were raised during our audits.
So your audit looked at accessibility, really, didn't it?
It looked at, there was actually 8 themes that we looked at, but I suppose from the physical viewpoint we were looking at access to buildings, and we were looking at you know, our streetscapes and how safe they were, things like public toilets, things like you know, if a building that an older person needs to access were on the 2nd floor, was there a lift, you know, and that sort of thing. And I suppose one of the things that came out of that in Cavan that surprised me was the number of restaurants that are on 1st or 2nd floors in Cavan.
And very difficult to access.
And very difficult to access.
I only found that out too when I have a buggy now. And
yes.
I just was very surprised getting in and out of doors, and it's...
And I'm glad you mentioned buggy there, Laura, because really, you know, when we talk about age friendly, it's not just friendly for older people, because if you make a street, you know, a footpath friendly for
an older person,
it's friendly for a mother with a buggy, it's
somebody in a wheelchair with a disability,
for toddlers, you know, so it's
somebody who's visually impaired,
And one of the other things we looking at, and we now I suppose is a very opportune time to look at, is the whole idea of housing for life. You know, in other words, a home where a person can live for the whole of their lives and without having to do alterations. That as a house is being built,
you're taking these concepts into
and even if it's only a young couple who are building a house, I mean, they may have their parents visiting, you know, when they are, who may be at some stage, hopefully not, but at some stage they may have impaired mobility. So, you know, it's good to think of that, and to think in terms of you know, having a downstairs bedroom with a toilet and a walk-in shower. You know,
just getting the whole way of thinking for the future and
thinking
long term.
It's a full life cycle.
Well, listen, you've done loads and loads of work, and it has to be said. And I know we haven't even got to all of it yet, but we're going to show the DVD now, and hopefully this will give people a better idea of, you know, everything that the 050 network have been involved in. Can we just?
It's probably more social.
Can you just give the website?
Yeah, the website detail. The website is www.cavanover50s.com.
Listen, Bob, thank you so much for coming in to us today. Best of luck with the network in the future. I know you're doing great work. So we'll just look at this video now. Thank you.
2005, following a seminar which was held in the Cavan Crystal Hotel. And coming from that seminar, there was a feeling that older people's organisations should have some kind of a network, and so the network was set up, and that was the start of a better life for older people in Cavan.
Even though she has made a life for herself in London, sure, I go over there regularly to see her. But she asked me to organise the party, and I must say, I'm really enjoying it.
It's a wonder that she never came home to take over the business from James. It's a bit much for a man who's 75 to run it on his own.
Yeah,
but sure, he's in great health.
I really want to get you back over here.
Me?
Yeah, Julie.
Me? You want me over there? Oh, sorry, I thought I was...
No. Going back over the years, been involved in a number of projects, but very briefly, we were involved in 2 projects, cross-border projects with the Newry Mourne Senior Citizens Consortium. One was around elder abuse, a number of workshops on elder abuse, which resulted in a play being written on elder abuse, which was performed by the group last year at a number of locations and was very well received. Another project that we did for the Newry Mourne Senior Citizens Consortium was a collaboration on a booklet of remedies, recipes. There was cures, there was gardening hints, household hints. I suppose it was a catch-all. There was all kinds of stuff in it, and that was went down very well. And we are still selling the odd copy of that book.
Well, this play now that we're doing, Cecilia, is it's all our own words.
That's right.
Bob is our director, and we'd be lost without Bob, because he directed the one last year, which we all really enjoyed. And this year, he said, I'm going to leave it up to yourselves this year, put in your own wording, and
yeah,
that's
the participation
exactly
of the older people,
yes,
was a great idea, I think.
So he left it
we wrote the
entirely
play
up to
ourselves, really, wasn't
it's our own play,
and
yeah.
Bob is putting finishing touches to it and kind of tidying it up.
But other than that, every word in the play is all, every one of the members, the cast that are in the play.
Are you on duty tonight?
Aren't I always?
Susan, he was just saying how Julia and James have got very pally lately.
Pally indeed.
Yeah, so you sit down there for a latter, okay?
Pally indeed. I saw the pair of them in the Kilmore just 2 weeks ago having breakfast. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them having breakfast together, but you should have seen them. They were just wrapped up in each other.
I'm joined the O50, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing here now. We're doing sculpture. We're designing a piece now depicting older people's version of peace. And we're working with clay at the moment, and we're all drawing out our different designs. We're just experimenting to see what we come up with.
Just do a quick sketch. Consider that as a piece of paper, and that's your pen, and you're just sketching out. And use the whole piece of clay to fill the rectangle there, the square, with whatever drawing you're thinking of. Don't make any ideas too small. Kind of keep them a little bit bigger, because the smaller they are, the harder they'll be to model.
Well, the class itself is fabulous, because they're all doing their inputs to it, and they're all excited and wondering what has happened or what's going to happen and all that sort of thing. We Cavan County Council have commissioned the sculpture, and the older people, they have contacted the O50 and other groups to have an input to the sculpture, how it should be designed for the county and the surrounding areas, and where it may be, whether it'll be in Cavan or where it'll be, but they want everybody to have an input into it.
We did a survey of all the people's groups in the county, 8 groups, to, I suppose, find out what the issues, barriers and attitudes that prevented older people participating fully in society were. This work was carried out by older people, all members of the organisation, with some input from a consultancy firm which helped us to draw up questionnaires, etc. And the results of that survey were published, and it has become national property, because I think every county-wide organisation of older people in the country has requested a copy of it and received a copy of it. The next step is to produce a report on the survey and the audits. And feel that report would form the basis for a toolkit for rolling out age-friendly communities anywhere in this country or anywhere else. The biggest problem would probably not be the agencies or the local authorities, but in actual fact, getting people's minds focused on age-friendliness. In other words, getting people to think age-friendly rather than, and to feel age-friendly rather than just, you know, giving lip service to it.
Welcome back. And now I'm joined by Hugh Leddy. Now, you'll know Hugh from, he used to present the business show here on Cavan TV.
Part of the business team.
Yes. But Hugh also, you were on with me, Hugh, about 3 months ago, was it?
Yes, 3 months, yeah.
And at that time you were looking to publish a book.
Yes.
You had the title and all, you had the work on the book done.
Yeah.
Down $1 million on the Dole.
That's it.
And here it is.
Here it is.
Well done.
Finished product, and I launch this Sunday in the Hotel Kilmore in Cavan.
At 3 p.m.
At 3 p.m, yeah. And I'm running a raffle as well for 2 suicide charities on the day. So they're my 2 chosen charities. I've been very close to them in the last few years and really admired the work they do. So sad and living links. But the project, yeah, I got it on... raise the money on Fund It.
Yes, because the last time you were talking about you were trying to raise the money to get the book published. Mm-hmm. So you've obviously achieved your goal in that. Well done. So how did you achieve
Well, I mean, there's 2 benefits to Fund It. With money scarce now, you know, scarce resources, it's a good way of selling the book in advance, and it also gets a good bit of publicity in advance. You know, media outlets, you know, they're watching those sort of things, newspaper articles and that. So I put it up on Fund It and got a huge response. A lot of work to do to it. You know, you got to follow up on the emails, send out the emails, that sort of, you know, follow through it. Just as everybody knows now, money does not come flowing in no matter what you're at. So you put the work in, you get the results. So finished product, 12 chapters, and it's 2 years' work I was doing it. And I'm looking to develop into a further next year. So taking one step at a time and going from now till Christmas selling the book. I hope to sell it in pop-up shops throughout Ireland as well. It's a means of generating income, and it's also to encourage others that find themselves, you know, on the dole or in debt, or as I was, in both. So thankfully this Sunday, the date of my publication, is exactly 3 years to the date of when I was not on the dole. So I'm 3 years off the dole and generating income, and that's what I'm encouraging, or hope to develop a platform next year to allow others to do the same.
I'm sure there's, unfortunately, you know, that an awful lot of people will get in a situation that they can identify with a lot of the issues that you faced in this book. Yeah. And I'm sure it will help people.
Well, that's my intention, Laura, is to get people to, you know, promote coming up to Christmas, to get people to connect with somebody. It's easy saying, oh, they're on the dole, they're doing nothing. It's a very, very lonely place for a lot of people, you know, that are trying to get a job, can't get a job, you know. And I mean, any of us that has work, has income coming in, you know, appreciate it to be able to get out there and do a day's work. And there's a hell lot of that percentage of people on the dole that I believe firmly want to do something. But just,
absolutely,
you know, sending out CVs. So that's also my message coming up to Christmas.
Are there any solutions in it?
Definitely, or there is one, yes, and I say it, work 100 hours a week. Maybe not physically, but, you know, you just have to go. Everybody's in the same situation. Everybody has to do more for less now, you know, but just get out there and graft. And I firmly believe there is work out there. You got to work very hard to find it. You know, but take anything you can get until you can improve.
And this book, Hugh, it isn't just about your time on the dole and that experience. It's a biography, really, of your life. It goes back to
school. Yes, but well, I suppose it would span. Technically, when I mentioned National School, it span 50. I'm 55 this year, so it spans 50 years. You know, not in chronicle order, but you know, over from National School right up until there October 2012 is when I finished the final draft of it. You know.
Yeah. And there's a lot of interesting photographs throughout it, I see.
A good few family photographs.
And the presenters in there.
Yes, Bill Cullen, of course, has his own difficulties now too. I've a photograph of him there from 2010 when I went on his training academy in Dublin trying to upskill. You know, he had a training course up there, so I went on it for a day. and met Bill. That's what the photograph there is in one of them. And of course, there's ones there from Derek Davis back in the 80s and the 90s. And another man that's in it as well that has had his own difficulties is Ivan Yates. You know, he was Minister for Agriculture when I met him in the late 80s or the 90s there with a craft business, you know. So the recession hasn't, there's nobody but it has touched in some way or other. Anybody hasn't been hit by the recession, and the current downturn is...
They're living in another country.
Well, no, or maybe very lucky.
Or they've won the lotto, maybe.
The Brian Daly's of this world is Steve Van Stanson, them sort of people, that it doesn't affect them at all, you know. It's,
Brian saying, yeah, right.
So, that's it. Launching, as I said, loads of people, Laura, talk about writing a book, but, you know, thankfully
very few, actually achieved.
Well, loads do, but,
was it always an ambition of yours to write a book?
Was it? Not really, no. I would be very good, I would be fairly diligent at keeping recording material, as in photographs and, you know, photocopying. So, you know, certainly in the last 3 years, but going back 10 years ago, did I say I wanted to write a book? No, not really, but when I set my sights on it, I just said, I'm going to, you know. And I put a good bit of information in it, copy checks, copy contracts about, you know, how I made money, how I lost money, you know. But I made it as interesting as I could. But it's about connecting, getting people to connect with each other. We have a lot of, shortages and poverty in Ireland at the moment. But we still have €107 billion approximately on demand deposit in Irish bank accounts. And a hell of a lot of people hasn't even enough food in the fridge. So, you know, as the fella says, and that's my message is, I'm not going to, as the fella says, sort all Ireland out, but, you know, wee bit more looking towards your own this Christmas and next year as well, when there's another budget coming in. We're fantastic, the Irish are. We've built America. We're great at supporting overall charities around the world, which is, one of them is a better cause than the next. But there's Irish people hungry this Christmas.
Oh, absolutely. Like, we've had the Lions Club on here in St. Vincent de Paul.
Yeah.
And like they said, there's the new poor out there, and there's the people who are very proud and afraid to ask for help and embarrassed to ask for help, and with the situation that they found themselves in, but had the money years ago, and, you know, circumstances have changed.
So never assume that anybody is okay insofar, and don't be ashamed to ask. Don't be embarrassed to ask if you're short. Don't be ashamed to ask if you have plenty. Can you help somebody else? And some people are genuinely very comfortable and wealthy and say, well, God, a person might be insulted if I ask them, you know, but you'd be surprised. It could mean the difference of children getting to college next year or getting their finishing their degree. If it's only filling out a grant application form, I just say, for assistance or whatever, you know, never be afraid to ask, you know, your neighbour, can you help?
Yeah, absolutely. Some good advice. So again, are you going to write another book at some stage?
We'll take one at a time. Yeah, well, I never say never, but I think if I did it again from the experience of this and the challenge that it was, I would hope the next time round I could afford a ghostwriter. Because I definitely talk faster and talk better than I write. Right.
Or all this new technology now, isn't there, that you can speak to the
but you can't. But you can't beat the skill of the human nature, and particularly the ladies getting it right. And you shouldn't say that. That's not the right way of saying that. So I find that I've worked with people that if I get to doing another book, I hopefully will be able to afford a ghostwriter, which is a lot quicker, and you can end up with a lot better product. For me, anyway, that's what I found for work, Laura.
Well, Hugh, well done on that. So it's Hotel Kilmore this Sunday at 3 p.m.
3 p.m, yeah.
Is it open to everyone?
Oh, literally, there's no charge going in, you know. Come in, you know, it's about connecting, communicating with people, and the only thing, I'm running a raffle, which is voluntary for people to contribute. You know, I've got about 10 prizes, you know, and it's, for two suicide charities, So Sad and Living Links,
And obviously they can bring the €10 to buy the book.
Yes,
as well,
please. That's every €10.
That's very important.
Keeps the bank manager happy, you know.
Well, Hugh, fantastic. Well done.
Thanks very
much,
Laura.
Great achievement.
Thank you.
We'll have to leave it there. Shouldn't on Clore Community Focus or CavanTV.com. We'll be back again next Wednesday at the same time. Have a great week. Slán.